What's going on, Washington fans? Welcome to Bleacher Report. I am Josh Taylor at Josh Taylor FB if you follow me on Twitter. And I'm here to talk about the biggest stock risers and fallers of the weekend. Obviously, a crazy game out in Denver. Really wish I would have went to this one. This one been a really fun one to watch in person. But Washington comes back, one of the biggest comebacks since the Kirk Cousins. You like that game. It was 35-33 against the Denver Broncos in a game where it seemed like we were out of it. We were down 21-3, 18-point deficit. One of the largest comebacks, like I said, since that Kirk Cousins game. Putting up 35 points on offense. That's the most we've put up in years. So I'll talk about some of the biggest risers. Obviously, talk about Sam Howell, Eric Bieniemy, Chase Young, and then some of the guys I'm still concerned about a little bit after this game. So I have some polls for y'all, and of course, blow up the chat. I got some media I'm going to share with y'all as well. But like I said, crazy game. We're 2-0. We still have some things to clean up before we host the Buffalo Bills coming up soon. But still, nonetheless, a lot of good things to take away from. And I'll start with QB1, Sam Howell, who looked phenomenal, by the way. In a game where he was down so much, he had to throw it 30 times the first half. That is not ideal for a young quarterback. But when you're behind as much as you are, you have to get things going and pass the ball. You're not going to run the ball every down when you're down, like I said, 18 points early. Russell Wilson and them were getting things going deep. You had to get things going. What's up? Appreciate y'all coming through on the chat. Like I said, going to cook things up on this stream for y'all. We got a lot of big things coming up on Bleacher Report, so excited. But Sam Howell, let me bring up some of his stats a little bit, but I will go ahead and say, in my opinion, and a lot of people were talking bad about him in the first half. I said, wait, guys, just give it some time. But to me, Sam Howell is absolutely a guy who his stock is up right now. Let me get rid of this overlay so y'all can see it. I think after that game, the Arizona game was a little sluggish. I was a little worried after that game, but it was one of those weird games. It's raining. It's a season opener. There's a lot going on. It's a big stage for him. A lot of expectations. A ton of expectations. That place was packed. I was there at that game. It was the most exciting I've seen a home game in a long time. But I will say that someone said that they can't hear. Try adjusting your volume on the if you're on the app on the side there. If y'all can't hear me, let me know though. But like I said, big stage for him. That first game was a little rough. He had a couple things. He was holding on to the ball a little bit. He was taking some unnecessary sacks. He couldn't really, get through the pocket a little bit. But the second game, I wanted to see what he could do. High altitude game. It's so hard playing out there in Denver. And it was talked about a little bit, but I don't think it's talked about enough that it's tough playing out there. Not only on the road, but with that altitude, how high you are up there. Denver is one of the worst stadiums to play at. But I think with the circumstances being down so much in that first half, I think Sam Howell killed it. You want to talk about, that poise that he has, delivering that pass to John Bates on that right sideline. It was cover 2 on the defense. They were playing some zone. He had to hit it right there in that bucket, and he just threw a dime to John Bates, who I was surprised John Bates is that open. I'm not going to lie. I'm not the biggest John Bates fan. I've been clamoring for it. I really want a better tight end. But the tight end stepped up yesterday, whether it was Logan Thomas taking that big hit in the end zone, hanging onto that ball. That was the momentum changer. Once that happened, this team started getting feisty. And then once I saw Sam drop that dime to John Bates on that right sideline, just splitting that zone coverage, going through his progressions, but then also having the time in the pocket to be able to do so, I was like, look, Sam, he's getting going. And they said on the broadcast a couple times, I got YouTube TV with Sunday Ticket. I don't know what broadcast y'all are watching. I'm out here in Texas now. So I don't have the local stream. But they kept saying it. They're like, yo, and shout out to Archuleta, by the way. He's good. Former Washington player on the broadcast as well. But once he started getting going, they said, look, Sam's starting to cook. Like I said, 30 attempts that first half, only 9 in the second half because you didn't really have to as much in that second half. It was a much more balanced team and your defense was helping out. But being able to come back, and I'm going to talk about a guy who had a huge sway in this, who was probably one of my biggest stock risers. But I think having that poise and leadership to really get these guys around, you're down 18, it's on the road. I mean, us as fans were like, yo, this game's over. But they said it after the game. It never really felt like the game got away from them. And they say it over and over again. No matter how bad things are going, Sam Howell just comes back to the pocket or comes in the huddle and says, look, guys, next play. We can't help what just happened. Let's keep things going. So Sam Howell, 27 for 39, 299 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 4 sacks, which is down from 6 last week. Still a little too much. But PFF actually just dropped their numbers and a couple stats that I'm going to share with y'all real quick. Sam Howell stats, a 70.4 overall grade, which isn't crazy, but it's about what I expected. Like, it's hard to get like some 90 grade. Like, you have to be flawless to be like high 80s and 90s. But he had an 87.5 adjusted completion percentage with 2 big time throws, which is the John Bates one and then the one to Terry McLaurin, of course. But this is the most notable. This is one that we're not used to. He had 0 turnover worthy plays. I guess a really good defense, a defense I was worried about. You know, Kareem Jackson, I know that the hit was dirty and he got ejected. Really good player. Patrick Surtain's a top 3 corner in this league. I'm putting him close to 1, if he's not number 1 in my opinion. A little bit biased because I'm an Alabama guy, but still. Dana Cunningham, great game, needs to be more aware a little bit. And I agree with you, Dana. I think he does need to be a little bit more aware of the pocket. Like that one, the strip sack was bad, but I'll talk about the offensive line a little bit. There's somebody on here that had a terrible game, going back and rewatching it, but it's not Charles Leno. I think he had a pretty bad game too, but someone had a worse game. But I will agree that, but he showed improvements where he's moving around in the pocket. He has better pocket awareness. He can feel if something's coming. But when Randy Gregory's beating Charles Leno in Sam Howell's blind spot in under 3 seconds, it's just not ideal. But Sam has done a good job of moving outside, moving the pocket out, whichever way he has to go, whether it's RPO, play action, or it's just the pocket breaks down. He's done a really good job of moving things around and creating these passing windows and then just throwing these darts. And that's what's so good about his arm. He's not throwing, passes that take a little bit to get there to where that window is closing up quick. He's throwing darts where he sees someone open. He knows he can get it there fast enough to where it's going to make it to that window. So Sam Howell, absolutely killer. Glad Celtics got his volume working. Shout out to Celtics. Let's see. Bieniemy got worse. Bieniemy got game. Yeah. Eric Bieniemy is absolutely going to be on my chart, by the way. But I'm going to change it to somebody who had a really bad game. This is one that I'm worried about, especially with the Bills coming to town. Cody Barton had a awful game. And the thing that really showed up on tape, it was just average tight ends, like these crossers across the middle. The one thing he did was recover the Jamin Davis fumble, which shout out to Jamin Davis, by the way. If you want to talk about the games that changed the momentum of this game, the plays were the Logan Thomas touchdown and then Jamin Davis getting that fumble. Like, we were like, oh, okay. Like, we're down a lot, but we really needed that fumble. Finishing that play was just beautiful by Jamin Davis. But on the other side of him, Cody Barton had an awful game. There was a lot of times in coverage where he was lost. There's a lot of times where he just couldn't follow the man that he was with, whether it was zone, whether it was man coverage against just average tight ends that I've never even heard of. I hate to say it. But when you have the Buffalo Bills coming to town, you have Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, who's one of the best tight ends in this draft, that just passed. One of the best route runner, one of the best receiving tight ends, especially in that draft. I'm concerned. I'm big time concerned because Josh Allen loves those tight ends. He loves to feed them early and often. That's really the blueprint. Yes, I know Stephon Diggs. Yeah, he has Gabe Davis, who's hit or miss. But those tight ends really run that offense. And I'll be hopping on with some Buffalo Bills fans and content creators this week. So stay tuned. Like I said, follow me on Twitter at Josh Taylor FB, and the same with JTFB on YouTube. We're going to cook things up, and we're going to do some more streams on Bleacher Report about that game as well. But Cody Barton's got to clean things up. You cannot be lost like that. Like, there was times it's just simple crosses across the middle with 2 tight ends. He didn't know who to pick up. The one that he was supposed to go with is gone like 10, 15 yards up the field. So Cody Barton's got to clean things up. This is a guy I was really high on. And the thing with these stock up, stock downs, yes, I could, give a stock up to everyone who had a good game, like Emmanuel Forbes, but I was already high on Forbes. I didn't put Forbes in the stock up list because I expect him to get these interceptions. He's almost had 3 this season so far. So these are guys that I've had certain expectations for, and it's either gone up or it's gone down. And Cody Barton was a guy I was super high on. Seahawks fans really liked how he was last year. But the thing with Cody Barton last year, he was pretty bad in the first half, which seems like he's doing the same this year. And then he got much better in that second half of the season. So I'm hoping that there's some kind of turnaround. I know it's a new defense. There's a lot going on. But when you are a primary starter next to Jamin Davis at the linebacker spot, Jamin's a guy that's got a lot of heat. But honestly, Jamin's been playing really well lately. He played really well last year. Didn't get much credit for it from fans. and he's starting out really good this year. So Cody Barton's got to step things up, though. And I'm going to go ahead and drop one of the polls for y'all. Biggest concern after week 2. You might be able to guess mine. There's 3. You got Cameron Cheeseman, the long snapper, who for some reason I'm going to talk about him. Shouldn't have to talk about a long snapper, but here we are. Then you have Andrew Wiley, who in my opinion had the worst game out of that offensive line yesterday. Got beat so many times. He was the second lowest graded player on the entire offense for Washington yesterday, which is just bad. And then you have Cody Barton, who I just talked about, just been a liability at the linebacker spot across the middle of the field. I will say B-Rob stock way up. Jim Effett, I agree. I did not put him on here because once again, I love B-Rob, but that game yesterday proved a lot of things I've been saying wrong and a lot of other people wrong too. This run game hasn't really had that juice, hasn't really had that difference maker. Like you go back and watch that Eagles game last year where we upset them. It was a lot like yesterday. Defense was playing really well. And B-Rob was running the ball and we were controlling the clock. We were just beating down that defense. So I agree with you. B-Rob stock is up. He didn't make my 3 cut, unfortunately, because there's some other guys I want to give some love to. But B-Rob absolutely killed it. Koloski, HTTC, LFG. I know 2-0, man. 2-0 first time in 12 years. Kicker, Sly, stock down. Yes and no. That first one where he just completely shanked it, I thought was his fault, but that was where Cheeseman just absolutely messed up. So let's get back. Oh, you know what? I'll go ahead and knock out Cheeseman. We're talking about kicks and stuff. I wanted to go back to a positive. We're going to stay in the negative, though. Cameron Cheeseman, this is mind-blowing to me that a long snapper out of nowhere has just completely forgotten how to long snap. They said he had to change things up. He had to change up his snap. So I don't know if it was a coach thing, if it was a, Cheeseman thing where he was like, hey guys, I'm trying this out. Or they said, hey, you need to do this more to get it out quicker, or what all is going on. But I'm concerned when there's a guy who only snaps it. He's not even, like I said, he's not the center. If it was the center, yeah, I'd be much more concerned. Like, okay, this needs to go. Like you hear that more often than this. But this is a guy who's only on special teams where he's long snapping for field goals and punts. That's it. You have one job. And some reason he doesn't know how to do it anymore. And it's been a known issue since camp. Ron Rivera said he's known about it. Like it's a thing that they said he's working on. You should not have to worry about a guy who cannot long snap a ball. You're telling me we can't just go get somebody? The second I saw this being issue, and it lasts longer than a month. In preseason, like we brought in a punter because Tressway was hurt. We brought in some kicking competition. Joey Sly won that. How come there was no long snapping competition for a guy who was the worst of the 3? Like, I just don't get it. If he's doing that bad, it's costing field goals like that. If we would have lost that game, you would have gone back to that first field goal that was shanked because of his snap. Not saying Sly was guaranteed to make that, but still, that can't happen in these close games, which we're going to have a lot of close games this year. We got some good teams coming up. So that's got to get fixed immediately. I feel like this is something I shouldn't even be talking about, our long snapper, but here we are. But it's just unfortunate. Like we traded up to get this guy in the 6th round, long snapper out of Michigan. I remember it was him and Alabama's long snapper was like the top 2 guys to get. And we got the number 2 guy. It's a long snapper. Like just bring somebody in, for crying out loud. I don't want to talk about him so much. Makes no sense to me, but this guy deserves all the credit in the world. Chase Young, his stock is up. There's been a lot of Chase Young hate. I know y'all gonna say some things about him. There's gonna be a lot of good. There's gonna be some bad still. Chase Young shut a lot of people up yesterday. And I'm a guy that's said, like, I need to see more out of Chase. I'm not going to say anything good or bad about Chase until I see him on the field. And I think Chase Young said yesterday, look, guys, I'm back. He had 1.5 sacks yesterday. He was one of the highest graded defenders for our team yesterday. Once again, PFF put out some numbers. Chase Young had 7 pressures and a pass rush win rate of 25.8% in his debut on just 31 pass rushing attempts. To put that in perspective, the highest pass rushing win rate last season for us was 22%. So in his first game back, he had a 25.8 win rate. And that pass rushing, it was limited. He was on a snap count, which good. James Smith-Williams looked pretty daggone good in his spot, honestly, when he was out. But just easing him back in, but then seeing how comfortable he was his first game back, like that's huge for Chase Young. A 25.8 win rate is huge from that pass rushing standpoint. 7 pressures, and I think he did have like a sack and a half. I'll have to look at the stats, like the total number of like tackles for loss and stuff like that. But still, 1.5 sacks, 1 tackle for loss from Chase Young yesterday, and 2 quarterback hits. That's more than enough that I needed to see, more than I was expecting out of Chase Young. I hate to say it, number 2 overall pick. That's way more than I was expecting out of Chase Young yesterday. And I'm excited. Like, this team is so much better when this defensive line is together as a unit, and it showed. First half, it was kind of sluggish. We were kind of, missing some things. But think about the times where this team's winning and the offense looks good. It's because the defensive line is getting to the quarterback. It builds that momentum. It gets people going. Like, it fires us up. When you see Chase Young and Montez Sweat meeting at the quarterback, just laying out Russell Wilson in these big-time situations. So, Chase is back. Let's see if he can stay on the field. That's the biggest thing. Like, stay healthy, please, Chase Young, for the love of God. Stay healthy, my guy. That's all I'm asking for. Let's check in on the poll real quick. Biggest concern after week 2, 47% say Cameron Cheeseman, which is crazy. I agree with you, though. Number 2 is Cody Barton at 35%, Andrew Wiley at 18%. Wiley was a little bit better in that second half, but still not good enough for my opinion. I'm going to leave this one up for a little bit, then I'm going to switch it over to the biggest stock riser for y'all. Do you know what happened to Deron Payne? He got banged up, but he came right back. Speaking of Deron Payne, like, I didn't put him, Sauce me, appreciate the chat. I didn't put him as my stock riser because I'm super high on Deron Payne. The season he had last year was insane. And I said, like, I want to see how he does. After he gets paid, let's see what this season looks like for him. When he gets going, he gets going. I'm going to call it the Deron Payne drive, because it was that drive where, once again, just momentum just came in hot. It was a sack, a tackle for a loss, and then a pass deflection, back to back to back, 3 and out for the Broncos. I was like, that's the Deron Payne drive. Like, that's what we need more of. And you have John Allen, who can do the same thing. He does it many times. John Allen's top 3 defensive tackle in the NFL. I think Deron Payne, he's top 5. I think it's crazy to say that we have 2 of the top 5 defensive tackles in the NFL on this team. And like I said, when you have Montez Sweat and you have Chase Young doing their thing on the outside, it just makes a ton of difference. Yes, DGALLANT. A big help is when the offense can keep the defense off the field. Yeah, you don't want to get them gassed. And you saw it in that first half. I know it was like some quick plays, though. But still, when that defense is gassed, like, I know we can rotate some guys in, but it's still just not the same. You want fresh legs out there to where guys are getting strip sacks. They're getting interceptions. Even the best defense can get beat when they're tired from spending the most game on the field. Absolutely. And people say it all the time. Yes, things are like the game's won in the trenches, but also time of possession. Who has the ball in a scoring position more? It's fundamental, it's basics of football. So I agree with you. I think Chase had a huge game. Welcome back, Chase Young. Like I said, it was more than I was expecting to see out of him in his first game back. So I talked about Cody Barton, talked about Cheeseman for stocks down. My last stock down is, I've already mentioned it, Andrew Wiley, second lowest graded player on offense yesterday against the Broncos. But this is the guy this was supposed to be your big time free agent signing. This is your right tackle. I know it's not the blind spot, thank God, but still, this is a guy who is supposed to help set that edge and clean that pocket up for Sam Howell, your young quarterback. And we saw what happens when he does. When he can have a clean pocket, Sam Howell is delivering some beautiful passes. He's running, but there's a lot of penalties yesterday. It wasn't just Wiley, too. There's a lot of times. There's like 2 times where Sam Howell had a big run, and then there's a flag, holding, or like hands to the face, or something stupid by the offensive line. Those are things we cannot have happen. That first offensive line was awful. The first half offensive line was atrocious, like just bad. Second half offensive line got much better. Sadiq Charles, by the way, was the highest graded player on offense yesterday. So he's probably my honorable mention. I like Sadiq Charles. I think his stock's way up too. He had like an 80-something grade, 86 or 85, something like that. I can't remember. I just looked at it real quick before I went live. But Sadiq Charles, highest graded player on offense yesterday. Yep. So left guard spot's good if he can stay healthy. Nick Gates has some good and he has some bad moments, but I think, that spot's, lined up. I think Stromberg's getting better and better too. Lando allowed 202, Cosme to right tackle, and Stromberg to guard. I'm going to say no, just because Cosme has been really good at right guard, and we've seen how Cosme has been bad at right tackle. If you're paying Wiley what we did, and it wasn't like, we didn't give him like top 10 money, but we still gave him like favorable free agent money. Like, he was supposed to be our premier signing. Like, he was our premier guy. Nothing's going to happen with Wiley. This is a guy that was with Eric Bieniemy. Like I said, he was your big time sign, starting right tackle, really good, second half of the season for the Chiefs. What can he fix? Like, can he get better? I think he will. But just right now, the stock is taking a dip, whether it's penalties, whether it's the pass blocking. I mean, run blocking was bad too. The most success running the ball came to the left side yesterday. Same with screens. Like, think about all the big plays we had yesterday on the ground. B-Rob running to the left. Screen to the left to Antonio Gibson. Screen, was a tight end screen. I want to say right before halftime, left side. Big plays are happening to the left side. And it's because we actually had some protection out that way. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think Andrew Wiley was so bad yesterday. Had a few good moments, but honestly, not enough to be like, yeah, I think he's going to fix it. But I mean, we'll see. I'm not going to harp on him too much. But it was bad, especially at a spot. I'll say left tackle was bad too. Charles Leno wasn't good. It was like bottom 5, bottom 6 graded on PFF as well. This is a position I've been dying for, that premier guy. Like, we need to draft a guy like Olufashanu, Joe Alt, whoever. Graham Barton out of Duke, you name it. There's a lot of guys. Cooper Beebe, Kansas State. This is a position I have been dying for, a young franchise guy. Where's my Rashawn Slater? Like, where's my Tristan Wirfs? Maybe we can sign Tristan Wirfs when his contract's up. Like, who knows? Like, but I am dying for us to draft a guy who can stand out there and be that guy for years, like Trent Williams was for us. We haven't had that since Trent left, unfortunately. And before him, like, it was hit or miss. So Wiley's stock is absolutely down. But I'm going to mention my last stock up guy, and this guy deserves all the time in the world. I'm ending things on a high note because this guy had the game of his life. Eric Bieniemy, thank God we went and got this man. The future head coach. I don't care what anybody says. This man's absolutely going to be our head coach next year. The writing's on the wall. Eric Bieniemy put up 35 points of offense yesterday. When's the last time we scored 35 points in a game? Let alone, tell me the last time we had 4 offensive touchdowns in a game. That's crazy. 4 touchdowns. I think the Chiefs have 4 total touchdowns in the first 2 games of their season. They look a little sluggish. I hate to say it. The Chiefs look on offense, they're a little lost. And you can say, well, Pat Mahomes doesn't really have anyone to throw to. It's pretty much exactly what he had last year, but they added Rashee Rice, who I think is actually pretty good. Something's not clicking for that offense right now. Who's the offensive coordinator now? Maggie or whatever his name is, Jim Nagy? I don't know. But I think Eric Bieniemy's been looked really good the first 2 games. Like I said, that Arizona Cardinals game was weird. It was pouring down rain. It was sloppy. Couldn't really get things going for a little bit, but in the second half, it was better. The field, it was awful. That whole rainstorm just absolutely killed all the vibes in like that third quarter. Then it got better. Defense showed up and it helps out the offense once again. But yesterday, that was a master class by Eric Bieniemy. I know it took a little bit. Offensive line wasn't helping you out. Sam Howell was holding on to the ball for a little bit. He was moving around, wasn't making the throws. There were some guys open early that he just missed. But you want to talk about a halftime adjustment. Think about the first 2 games this man has been offensive coordinator. The difference we saw at halftime. This might be one of the best in-game adjustment coordinators in the NFL. What we saw first half yesterday versus what we saw in that second half was a complete change. That was a whole new offense. We were running the ball more. We were having better protection. The play calling was just wide open for Sam Howell. There was guys open on every single play. It felt like things were just clicking. And yes, I know, like I said, defense helps you out a bunch. But at the end of the day, this man was cooking up. And I'll drop the second poll right now for y'all. Highest stock riser after week 2. Sam Howell, Eric Bieniemy, this man, and Chase Young. And people absolutely love Eric Bieniemy too. I remember at training camp, people were screaming for Eric Bieniemy almost as loud as they were for Chase Young and Terry McLaurin, which is hard to do. But every time Eric Bieniemy came out, there were EB chants, like nonstop, super loud. But this guy needs his roses. I'm telling you. Yes, the Chiefs are starting out sluggish right now. They can worry about their problems. Right now, we've been blessed with this man who has been drawing up a beautiful game plan. And it's taken some time, but he knows what he has with Sam Howell. He knows there's going to be some growing pains. He knows what he has at offensive line. He's making things work, though. But the adjustments that this guy made yesterday, I mean, getting that pass to Terry, getting getting the protection down a little bit better. We saw a little bit more pass protection in the second half, too, a little bit more B-Rob picking up some blitzers, tight ends having to pick up some of that, that little slack on the edge from Wiley or Charles Leno. There was adjustments made. He went in halftime and said, look, they're getting to the quarterback. We're not running the ball. We threw it 30 times the first half because we had to. We can't do that. Like, we have to get back to my game plan. We have to get back to cooking what I have in store for us. Sauce to me, I thought his screen calls were perfect timing. He didn't call much, but when it did, it caught the defense by surprise. Yeah, I think that was, in my opinion, that was the best, this is sad to say, that was the best screen plays I've seen in a long time. And I agree with you. Last year, our screens were not effective. For the last few years, they haven't been effective. There's a couple that come to mind, like the Antonio Gibson one against the Bills. What was 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Then you have to go back to the Chris Thompson days. That was the last time where we've actually had some effective screens, but it's something he did a lot of in Kansas City. He did a lot with Travis Kelce getting tight end screens, which we've seen him do it or try to do it with Cole Turner. He's done it with Logan Thomas. I think yesterday, John Bates had one. It was either Bates or Cole Turner. I can't remember. It was after Logan Thomas got hurt. So it was one of those two. But you just look back at what he did at Kansas City with the screen game. Jerick McKinnon was a receiving monster last year. 9 receiving touchdowns at running back, only behind Travis Kelce, who had 12 last year in that Chiefs offense. He's going to get things cooking. He wants to get these screens going because he knows these guys are deadly in space. You're going to see more Terry screens. You're going to see more Jahan Dotson screens. Who was it that had that big third down conversion to start the game out? I think it was Jahan. It was either Jahan or Terry. I think it was Jahan. But he knows what these guys can do in space. And Curtis Samuel too. Give that man the ball in space and he's going to be deadly. So I think the screens are absolutely a big part of this game. But it's just hard to do that when you are down 21-3 and you have to get things going and get the ball downfield. And especially with these penalties. I know it seems like screens are it's just what you do in third and longs, just to pick up some chunk, and then punt, whatever. No, these screens can actually be really good. But when you're penalized, like the offensive line was doing first half, it puts you in a bad spot where you have to switch up your play calling. If you're in second and 30, the defense can expect okay, they're probably going to do a screen or something short. They're not going to just throw it deep and try to pick it all up in one play. They're going to cut that field in half and guard you the first 15 of those 30 yards and expect the screen. So you can't really call it up as much. You have to call those screens on early and often, 1st and 10, 2nd and 5. When the defense really, like you said, it caught the defenses by surprise. It came in big moments. And it turned out to be big plays for us. And then B-Rob started getting going on the ground. So just an overall masterclass by Eric Bieniemy yesterday. Absolutely love the play calling, especially the adjustment is what's not going to be talked about enough. It is so hard in this league. I don't care who you're playing against. And the Broncos have lost 9 straight games when they lead at halftime, by the way, which is the longest in the NFL. I'm just throwing out all kind of nuggets that I saw. To y'all this morning. You're all welcome. But when you were down that much, it tells a lot to be able to come back 18 points down. We as fans were defeated. That felt like the old Washington team that we've known. I've never thought that we could come back like that. So big shout out to Eric Bieniemy. Like I said, 4 offensive touchdowns yesterday, 35 points on a good defense, by the way. But the Raiders only scored 16, 19, something like that week 1 against them. And we looked much better than they did. So, shout out to Eric Bieniemy. Let's take a look at the polls. Biggest stock risers after week 2. Eric Bieniemy at 44%, Sam Howell at 38%, and Chase Young at 19%. Overall, those three guys, Chase Young, Eric Bieniemy, Sam Howell, big time moments in that game yesterday. But from where I had them going into the game, stock wise, I expected big things out of Eric Bieniemy. I want to see what Eric Bieniemy does in those situations where we are down, where we are on the road, where, the offensive line is struggling. What can he do? And it was honestly as good as it gets. Only complaint yesterday was Please, for the love of God, on defense, Jack Del Rio, I hope we see some Hail Mary defense drills in practice this week. There's no reason where it was Emmanuel Forbes, Derek Forrest, and Cam Curl all were trying to intercept it. Like, guys, just bat that thing down. Don't worry about the interception. I know Forbes, you've dropped 2, but you got yours yesterday. But don't worry about that Hail Mary, man. That absolutely, I remember sitting here getting ready to go live right after the game yesterday, and I was like, there's no way we really let these guys just get that Hail Mary. But shout out to St. Juice, too, for locking it down, that 2-point conversion. That was not defensive pass interference, by the way. His hand was on his shoulder, but he didn't yank him back or anything like that. Just simply placed it, and then he reached around with his right hand. Beautiful coverage, great timing. Haters are mad about it. And shout out to the Denver Broncos, that radio show that said Sam Howell's going to throw a lot of turnovers, and he's just looking to turn the ball over because he almost had a 300 burger on y'all, and we put up 35 points and 0 turnovers. Matter of fact, 0 turnover-worthy throws. So, y'all look stupid after that, but I appreciate y'all coming by here and chopping it up on the Bleacher Report stream with me. Like I said, I got a lot of big things coming up on the streams. Me and my guy Rio, Pedro, we got some big-time streams coming this season. If Washington is going to keep playing like this, it's going to keep being fun. I'm excited. Like I said, follow me on Twitter, at Josh Taylor FB. I'm going to be here for a while doing this streams after games and stuff like that, giving y'all some pre-game stuff, post-game grades, stocks up and down. Absolutely DY Powers wild game yesterday. For my health, I hope that we don't have a ton more of those kind of games, but at the same time, I love those. Like, I'm going to be trying to go back home to Virginia to watch some more home games. So appreciate y'all chopping with me, and I'll see y'all next time here on Bleacher Report. Peace. Underdog Fantasy is the best place to participate in all of your fantasy contests, whether it's the NFL, MLB, PGA Golf, NBA, even college football. This user-friendly app, you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. And my favorite part is that when you sign up in your first deposit and you use my promo code JTFB, they will double your first deposit up to $100. Now, how does it work? You pick lower or higher on stat projections that Underdog Fantasy gives you, whether it's passing yards, rebounds, points, you name it. And for each selection, say you want to select 3 people or 4 people, your odds go up based off of how many you select. My favorite feature, however, is sometimes I want to make 4 selections and I'm not feeling too confident in all of them. I love taking advantage of the pick'em insurance to where if I miss one pick in my contest, I still get paid out on lower odds. So sign up today, download the app, and use my promo code JTFB to get up to $100 in your first deposit.